You need this. Cool. Hello everybody. Welcome from my side. I have some new video installation because I try to make it better every time. So I have to set up this really quick. Ny kör. I'm from Switzerland. I live here since 1 year. And I'm part of this cross-culture family church. Sometimes I'm preaching here in English. It's better than it was some times ago, as I started here. I think you will understand me. Those of you who do not have a Bible yet, you can grab one there. We'll look into the book of Job today. The second part, or actually the whole book. As we are reading through the Bible in 1 year, that's the part we are reading this week. Second part of Job. The topic of today's sermon is, what if not? What if healing doesn't come and I'm sick for maybe 18 years or I don't know? Or what if bad things happen? Everything was fine and then something went wrong and everything went wrong. I will give you a short flyover of the book of Job. We have the structure in the beginning, a prologue, chapter 1 and 2, and in the end, an epilogue, chapter 42. It's kind of the surrounding story. In the beginning, it shows why all things happened, or maybe not why, but it's kind of an introduction of the story of Job and his friends on a journey together. And in the end, everything closes in. And then in chapter 3 to 37, it's kind of the first big part in this book. There Job is speaking and thinking, and he has 3 friends, and we have the speeches of these 3 friends who try to explain why Job is suffering. And in the end we have, before the epilogue, chapter 38 to 41, God's response to this long part, chapter 3 to 37, where just Job and the 3 friends spoke. And in the end, finally, God is speaking and is revealing himself. In the prologue, we see that Job is going to suffer. And we expect that the book, as we read on, will have some answers why Job is actually suffering. But we see there is no answer that we can apply for our today's life. There's no answer in the book, and I will not give you today answer to how to deal with suffering or why is there suffering. I will rather focus on how to live with it or how to go on. Even if there's suffering, even if there are things not going right, and you don't know why. That's the big thing. You don't know why. If you do know why something is as it is, you can maybe change it. But if you don't know why, I think that's the biggest problem in life sometimes. And the book of Job, it does not give an answer on that why, but it shows what is more important. As we begin reading in the book, we see there is a debate of Job and his 3 friends, and some questions are raised that we today also raise sometimes. Questions about God. Is God just? And does he rule the universe on a strict principle of justice? If there is justice, we expect that God will be just, the creator of everything. But is he just? Hiob, the innocent, is suffering? And how is this suffering of Job explained? We as humans, we think about God's nature, or neither the nature of how justice works, even on this earth. This is action and reaction. If we do something, then something happens. If I drive my car and I press down the gas, it goes faster. Action and reaction. If it rains outside, everything gets wet. action and reaction. If I am friendly to my neighbor, he will be friendly to me, probably. Or if I swear all the time, people around me, they get stressed and pressed down. So action and reaction. And we think justice works like this. A human action influences the result. Wise and good people, they will have success and reward for that. And evil and stupid people, them will follow disaster and punishment. That's what we expect. Even in our law, if someone kills someone, he went into prison. He's punished for that. But we see when we look into the world, it's not working like this all the time. We expect God is not doing it like the good mans, they have success. And the bad mans, they will be punished. It's the other way around most of the time. The bad mans, the evil, big people, they have much money, success, power, and they're not always treating their people good. And the good ones who always live the right life. Sometimes they have not enough money. They're on the street and try to get a better life. Something to eat. Somehow seems unjust. Job is experiencing exactly the same thing. His argument is, I'm innocent. I'm living a good life. I'm living a just life. I'm following God. I've never done something wrong, he says, he claims. So he says, my suffering is not divine justice. My suffering is not just because I live a good life. And then we can get to the wrong conclusion. God doesn't run the world according to justice, or God is unjust. If you see bad things, we can come to the conclusion, God is bad. And this is maybe the feeling we get when we read to Job, the whole book. Like this, many chapters from 3 to 37, nothing happens. God does not show himself, but Job is crying unto God. He's accusing him. Why are you doing this? Or why does this happen? And then finally, God responds. Chapter 38 to 39. God shows himself, he reveals himself, and he speaks to Job. And he asks, have you been there when I created the universe? Have you ever commanded the sunrise or the weather? God corrects the perspective of Job. It's a clarification of God's perspective on things. And he shows Job has a limited perspective on how the world functions, how the things are. We assume that God's justice is like our justice. Human action will lead to result. Good behaving will lead to reward, and bad behaving to judgment. But there's a deeper assumption. We do not have enough perspective. As you see the universe, it's so complex, it's so big. We never told the sun to go up or to go down. God's view is so much bigger on the things happening than our view is. Our questions why are sometimes heading to no result, to no answer, because we have not this big perspective that God has. Our perspective of justice is actually a human and worldly justice perspective. Our law, and I think law in general, is a humanly perspective of justice. God has his eyes on everything, but our view of the world is very limited. So Job responds in humility and repentance. He sees in meeting God God is so much bigger. He's so different than I thought, maybe. And he was there, and he's there, and he speaks to me. And all my suffering is somehow not important anymore because God is here, he speaks to me, I'm in his presence. The book of Job is not answering why there is suffering, but it encourages to trust in God and keep us near him, especially when we are suffering. I encourage you to honestly bring your pain to God before his throne, like Job did it. And he waited for a long time, and there was no answer. It's just, he was waiting and not giving up on God. Trust that God actually cares and knows what he is doing. He will show himself. He will speak into the situation. God's justice is different than human justice and than that we expected. When we look into the New Testament, Romans, that came into my mind as I read through this book of Job, the justice of God. Romans chapter 1, verse 16 and 17. Romans 1, 16 and 17. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. And then, for in the righteousness, in the justice of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the righteous shall live by faith. Again, verse 17, for in it is the righteousness, the justice of God is revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the righteous shall live by faith. God's justice is actually that we, through faith in Jesus Christ, can live. We do not know all, and we are incapable of doing all things right. But what is important in all this? Jesus is for us, as also Job says it in chapter 19. I will come to that later on. Jesus did it for us. Look on him and focus on him. Sometimes there's suffering in our life. There are things we do not understand. But Jesus overcame everything, every suffering, every bad thing, every struggle. And he paid for sins, for that what us divide us from God. That what is between me and God is away. And we can have connection to God again, this relationship that Job was looking for. God, where are you? He was looking for God, and God revealed himself. And we can look for God and search for him today as well, because Jesus made the way free again. And the personality of God is relationship. As you see in Trinity, kind of God, the Son, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. One person and three. It's relationship in himself, God, somehow. It's 3 and 1. Or in Genesis, in the beginning, in the garden, Adam and Eve, God walked with them through the garden every day, every evening, and wanted to be with them. Relationship. The book of Job does not answer the questions why there is suffering, but it shows that when we meet up with God, it is irrelevant somehow. Meeting the Mighty One is central. Nothing else is important anymore. In the presence of God, the questions are like blown away. It's not important anymore because it's what we are made for. It's what I was looking for. Relationship with God. Explanations do not ease suffering, but relationship does. And in a relationship with Jesus, he sets me free, not directly from suffering, but he will carry me through suffering, He will carry you through suffering. He will carry you through this life and into eternity with Him. Even through everything, all the questions. Trusting God. As Job said it in chapter 42, verses 2 and 3. Job chapter 42, verses 2 and 3. I know that you can do all things and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Who is this that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. He saw God explained so many things and focused the perspective of Job, into a new way. God sees so many things more. His perspective is so much bigger. And it's not important that I understand everything, but that I get into this meeting God, into this relationship. See God, talk with Him, even accuse Him like Job did it when he don't understand something. Or when he don't understand anything. But stay in contact with Him as Job did it for many, many chapters. As it is written in James chapter 4, verse 8, draw near to God and He will draw near to you. Job experienced it and I experienced it. And I encourage you to do the same experience. Now I will conclude this sermon with Job's word. And then we will listen to a song. You can just listen or think about sermon, about something. Go in prayer, meet God. Job himself pointed to Jesus. And that Jesus will be there even if flesh and body is gone. And He will be with him and we will be with him. In Job chapter 19, verse 25 and 27. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last He will stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see for myself, and my eyes shall behold, and not another. My heart faints within me. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last He will stand upon the earth. For I know that my Redeemer lives. Even in the suffering, even in the questions. Jesus is greater and He lives.